Hey everybody, and welcome back for another video. In today's video, we got some exciting stuff for you. We're talking about my top 5 favorite Star Wars games currently, and some honorable mentions. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about some awesome Star Wars games. Now I need to put out a disclaimer before we get going, and that disclaimer is I have not played very many PC Star Wars games. So if I don't mention X-Wing or TIE Fighter or I forget what the Empire at War. If I don't mention those, it's because I haven't played those. So these are of games that I have played. So let's get started. Let's get the controversial one out of the way here. Most people that you talk to, if you say this title, they just say, I don't want to talk about it. It's pay to win. It's garbage. It's nothing. But what those people don't know is that the company flipped this game around and turned it into something amazing, and that game is EA's Battlefront 2. Now, EA's Battlefront 2, a lot of people, including myself, don't necessarily think that this is as good as the originals, but it is a ton of fun. It's easy to get into. There's a lot of modes. There's a story mode, which the first game didn't have. The first EA game, that is. It's a pretty cool story. You start off as a TIE fighter pilot for the Empire called the Infernal Squad, and you go through a story all the way up into the beginning of The Last Jedi, so that's pretty cool. You visit many different locations from the Star Wars universe, and it's a pretty cool story. I enjoyed it. Some of the multiplayer modes that were cool were there's the heroes versus villain mode, where you only play as the heroes or the villains. Like there's no other stormtroopers or clones, nothing like that. You're all playing like Darth Maul, Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader, all your favorite heroes and villains duking it out against each other. There's also dogfight mode. There is I forget what it's called, Starfighter Assault. They have that one as well, so that you're playing kind of like a story-driven space battle, so to speak. So like if you get past one checkpoint, then you move on, you progress the story, and you just keep going and going until you complete your objectives. And if you're on the other side, you're just trying to take out the enemy, defend your ground. The graphics in this game are phenomenal. It's probably one of the best looking Star Wars games out there. It's got a wide variety of heroes and villains, a wide variety of skins that you can use for both the heroes and villains and the stormtroopers, the regular class fighters. There are 4 different classes in this game when you can pick your soldiers, so that adds a little bit to it. I believe there's assault, heavy, scout, and captain or commander, one of those two. So yeah, you get to pick between those. They all have their different loadouts. It's really, really cool. There's a bunch of milestones to complete as well, because one of the biggest complaints about this game was I can't unlock anything for a very long time because I don't have the credits. Well, fear no more. There's a ton of milestones you can complete that are fun, and you can unlock most of these without really even thinking about it. But when you go back and claim those, you get a bunch of credits, and you can use those credits to unlock skins. So it all works out, especially if you start now. Like, a lot of those milestones I had completed before, and I had already bought everything by grinding through the game. Nowadays, you can get that stuff a lot quicker. So don't be like me and get that stuff at a convenient time. The second Star Wars game that I want to talk about that's one of my favorites is Star Wars Racer for the consoles. So like N64, I think it was on the Dreamcast, but it's also on PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch nowadays. And I love this game growing up. This was one of my favorite games to play. Sometimes I didn't really know what I was doing, like as far as the tournament mode, I didn't know how to progress. But when I play it nowadays, that game is amazing. I'm super confused why EA hasn't invested in a racing game, because they do like Need for Speed and stuff like that. Why can't they do that with pod racing? Blows my mind. But this game is awesome. So you can do a couple different things. You can just do like playing against a friend, or you can do the story mode, which is kind of like it's based off tournaments. And what you do is you go in, and as you place in these tournaments, hopefully you get first place to get the most benefits. You can upgrade your pod racer. So you get to pick a character. I usually pick Anakin because, you know, he was the hot one at the time. And you can pick your racer, you race through, upgrade your pod racer, unlock others. You get to unlock some pretty cool ones as well as you progress. So definitely check out Star Wars Racer. If you did not get to check it out back then, make sure you check it out now. It is on current consoles. So what are you waiting for? My third game that's on this list is actually a game that came out. It's got a cool story. It's a game that came out right before the movie release, and that is Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. I played this on the Xbox, and I also played it on the Nintendo DS. Both of them very, very cool games. The one for the Xbox, it's basically kind of like a hack and slash. You go around and you do missions as either Anakin or ObiWan, depending on what part of the story you're playing. There's also really, really cool lightsaber battles built throughout the game. There's some of them that really didn't happen in the movie. What's kind of cool about this game is that it came out before the movie's release. Like, I still remember as a kid renting this game like 3 days before I went to go see the movie, and I was like, oh my goodness, I get to know the movie before I get to go. Spoilers weren't really a thing I cared about as a kid. But another cool thing about this game is that because that happened, the game was created basically with the director's cut of George Lucas's movie. So there are scenes that you play through in the video game that are not part of the film. You can see them in the deleted scenes of the film, but with the video game, you actually get to play through basically the director's cut of the film. That is so awesome. I enjoyed it so much. There's also a thing at the very end, or an alternate ending. I won't spoil too much there for you, but just kind of think about it. What could the alternate ending be on Mustafar? After you beat the game, there is a little bit of a dual mode or arcade mode. There's like 1 versus 1 with the Jedi. You can play against a friend, or you can play against a computer. You can unlock other characters besides just Anakin and Obi-Wan you can play with, so that was super cool. One other kind of cool thing about this game is when this game came out, a wireless controller came out for this game as well. And there's actually things in the game that controller had buttons for. You could have little shortcuts. So if you bought that wireless controller, you'd have a little bit of an upper hand when you're playing the game. So yeah, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith for Xbox and PlayStation 2. That's really cool. Also, the DS game was pretty cool as well. It's not better than the Xbox version in my opinion, but it's definitely worth a shot. It's a side scroller, just like, you know, classic Super Nintendo, which is awesome because I love those games as well. But it also has some ship dogfighting battles, which is super cool because the Game Boy Advance version didn't have that, because you'd think those are pretty close together. The DS and the Game Boy Advance version, which they are, minus the ship battles. So definitely both of those are good to check out, but the one for the Xbox is the one that's on this list. The next game I want to talk about was actually my very, very first Xbox game ever. So when my parents bought me the Xbox, this was the first game that I got as a kid, and that is Star Wars ObiWan. Only came out for the Xbox, and Microsoft has not upgraded it so you can play it on Xbox One, so I'm very, very frustrated with that, because I would love to see this game as opposed to some of the others that they're choosing to put out there. But it was a gameplay where you basically play through the Phantom Menace as Obi-Wan, but you also get to play a little bit before the Phantom Menace, which was pretty cool. You get a little bit of a prologue to the Phantom Menace of what was Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon up to. But then you go through the story of the Phantom Menace as Obi-Wan. The controls were pretty cool. The one thing that I do remember was that the right stick was the lightsaber. So it was kind of like tank controls in a way. It was actually kind of like Shadows of the Empire on N64 when you're moving around with the left stick, and then the right stick was the lightsaber movement, which was pretty cool. I enjoyed that quite a bit. There is one thing in this game that is slightly changed from the Phantom Menace that's kind of in the middle of the movie. So go ahead and play the game so you can find out what that little cool change is. And then my final game on the top 5, and then we'll talk about some honorable mentions, is Star Wars Rogue Leader. Rogue Leader came out for the GameCube. It was the successor to Rogue Squadron. These games are super cool. I did have Rogue Squadron as a kid. I believe that was the first game I ever had for N64 because I got the bundle for Christmas as a kid. But the Rogue Leader basically takes the awesome stuff from Rogue Squadron, but also gives you some flavor from the movies. So like you get to play the Death Star run, you get to play the Battle Above Endor, I should say, because that's where the space battle happens. The Battle of Hoth. You get to do all these cool missions from the movies, and then things sprinkled in between as well. One thing that I love playing video games, especially Star Wars games, is reliving the movies my way. And I know that's not a very popular opinion, but I enjoy it very, very much. So yeah, Star Wars Rogue Leader, great game to play. Moving on to the honorable mentions. So the first one that I want to talk about is quite literally probably one of my favorite games ever made. And I'm super, super sad that it was canceled. That is Star Wars Disney Infinity 3.0. Obviously the Star Wars sections of that game. It's an honorable mention because it is not just a plain Star Wars game. It is a game that has Star Wars in it. But what this was is Disney made a game where you could collect these little figures. I have them all. And basically, well, you put the figures on a base, and then the base would take that figure and bring it to life in a video game, and you got to play as that character and collect the toys. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's a cash grab. You know, they're making you buy so much DLC. Well, it's like, well, think about it. What if you went to the store and you bought an action figure that cost the exact same amount as this one, but that figure that you just bought could play in a video game? It's no different. The prices were very, very comparable to any other action figure on the shelf. So it's like, moving on with the Star Wars Disney Infinity sections, there was a one for the prequels, there was one for the original trilogy, there was one for The Force Awakens, and there's only 3 of them. But what was super cool about these things? Well, these things were meant to be toys, right? So they were actually like toy things integrated into the gameplay. So like when you were playing the Battle of Hoth and you went to go take out the AT-ATs, what did you do? You pulled out the batteries. Why? Because it's a toy. It's Disney Infinity, and it's all talking about the toys, like the figures you have. It was super creative in the way that they basically blended all of their franchises. So there was not just Star Wars. It was Star Wars, Marvel, and Disney products. Well, and Pixar, because some people don't associate the two. But those were all in one game, and you could interchange them all in one setting depending on the mode you were playing. If you're playing a Star Wars story mode, obviously you had to have Star Wars characters, but there was also things in the game where you got to mix all these things. But again, back to the Star Wars stuff. Another cool thing was the prequel story was a original story that was made by the Disney Infinity team. And what I thought was super cool about that is as I played through it, I noticed that there was a lot of pieces in that story mode where they were like different parts that happened in the prequels, but they put a different twist on it and they rearranged things. So I thought that was super cool. Maybe we'll do some gameplay eventually. I would love to do that for you guys playing Disney Infinity. I'd love to play one of my favorite games with you. So maybe we'll put that one on our list of things to do here in the future. So yeah, Disney Infinity is super cool. I really recommend it, even though you really can't buy it anymore. If you can find it, it's worth a pickup, and you can buy the pieces used very reasonably. So please, if you're a Star Wars fan, check that out. And then the second honorable mention is actually a collection of Star Wars games. They are the Lego Star Wars games. Now, this game didn't quite make it into my top 5. But as a collective group, these games are awesome. This is basically Lego Star Wars is what like kicked off and really got the Lego games to pick up speed for the company. And it was started off with Lego Star Wars, which covered episodes 1 through 3. That came out right around the same time as episode 3, just like the Revenge of the Sith game did. And again, we got to play that before we saw the movie, but I'll be honest, it was kind of hard to understand what was going on with the movie with that game. But it was super cool to play, again, with that idea of, oh, I get to play the game before the movie. There's also Lego Star Wars, There's also Lego Star Wars 2, the original trilogy, so you play through 4, 5, and 6. And then later on, they released the Complete Saga, Lego Star Wars The Complete Saga, which has 1 through 6 in it, plus extra levels, like modified levels, brand new levels that replace ones from the previous games. And there's a lot more integration there. Then the next one that they had come out, I believe, was Lego Star Wars The Clone Wars, which that represented, I think, Season 1 and Season 2. I don't think it included Season 3. But it included some of the early seasons of it included some of the early seasons of the Clone Wars, but in Lego form. And this game brought something really cool to it that no Lego game really had before. And that was they basically made like battle segments into the game, and where you would have your troops and you could build barracks and you could build shields and you could build vehicle depots and just go out against the opponents and have a full-on war. Take out their bases, capture the base, build your own on that base, and then slowly but surely push the enemy back and take over. That was one of the really cool things about this game. And I'm really hoping to see some of those cool mechanics put into the Skywalker Saga game that's coming out next year. Fingers crossed that doesn't get delayed again. I am stoked for it. And then the last one that's in the Lego Star Wars group is Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens. This game was super cool. The thing that was kind of different about this game is that the game only focused on the one movie. It only focused on The Force Awakens. So that was kind of a turnoff to people because the other games covered like 3 movies or a couple of seasons of the show. And, you know, why would you only want something that covers one movie? Well, what they did was they made more levels for the movie, because typically what it was is you'd have like 5, maybe 6 levels for a movie. This one, they really spread it out. They also had bonus levels too that weren't part of the Force Awakens movie that explained a little bit more of how things happen. Like, for instance, there's a mission where you find out, how did C-3PO get his red arm? They didn't tell us in the movie. Play the game, you'll find out. So yeah, there's a couple of different things like that, a couple of different DLC missions. There's some like alternate points of views as well. So like when you're playing through the game, you normally play as like Rey, Finn, Han Solo, Chewbacca, all of those people. But there's also some like alternate missions where you play that same mission, but you play it from the perspective of Kylo Ren. So like you might be playing the Battle of Takodana, where Kylo is trying to capture Rey. Well, then you get to play as Kylo and go through and rip through the resistance and, you know, capture Rey and stuff like that. So that's kind of a cool twist as well. So yeah, Lego Star Wars Collection. Those are awesome games. You can't go wrong there. They are simplistic, but they are fun to just sit back and enjoy yourself with. We can do some gameplay footage of that too. We can bust out some Lego Force Awakens and show you what that stuff is all about. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So stay tuned for that. Alright everybody, that about wraps it up for this video. That was the top 5, in no particular order, Star Wars games that I have played, in my opinion. Plus some honorable mentions that we talk about. There are so many great Star Wars games out there. You can't go wrong with a good handful of them. Some other like really cool ones that I hadn't mentioned in detail are like The Force Unleashed. That was a really cool series. Unfortunately, it stopped abruptly on a major cliffhanger. That was really bad. There's the Dark Forces for the PC. A lot of people enjoyed that. Like I mentioned at the top of this video, X-Wing and TIE Fighter, those are some big games. The most recent Star Wars Squadrons or Jedi Fallen Order, those are some big ones too. But again, this video was my favorites, my top 5. Not necessarily the best Star Wars games ever made, but like I said, my 5 favorites. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, drop us a like if you like this video, drop us a comment letting us know what you thought of these games. Did you play them? Did you like them? Did you not like them? What are your top 5s? Let us know in the comments. And then as always everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.